Thank you. So welcome everybody. And as people trickle in into the session, again, a reminder just to relax and welcome this session with hearts, hands, head, and your feet. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to share a couple of slides just to get us going. And then we will have our conversation with our beautiful guests who have joined us today. Right. Hopefully my screen is coming through well. So I'm Carolina Escobartello. I am the lead of schools and education at Doughnut Economics Action Lab. I'm really excited to be here and to see so many people in the room with us. This session is really an invitation to learn from each other, the experiences, but also to celebrate the journey that we've had so far and how can we join, if you haven't yet, become part of this ecology of Doughnut Economics to be inspired and leave this space, hopefully with lots of new ideas, renewed conviction in the power that we each of us have in making a difference, and how we can bring into everyday practice a system of education that can help us shift towards the regenerative futures and be represented differently wherever you are. I see lots of people from here that I know they're from different places around the globe, so that's super inspiring. I'm going to share a brief overview of what we've been doing in the last year since we met in Global Donut Days 2024. And then I want to quickly move on to our panelists and have the conversation. So, what has been happening in the last year? Our tools, the foundational learning tools, have been gaining traction around the world. This includes Hello Donut, Preparing to Teach, and the Dimensions of the Donut. We have been updating them, very busy in light of the release of Doughnut 3.0, the publication. And so please make sure if you've already downloaded them, go and check them out again because they are updated with new data from Doughnut 3.0. Also, we've been very busy with meeting monthly in our peer-to-peer gathering to build momentum in the communities that bring energy to schools and education. And we've been working very closely with young people, some of them here today, who are working with Doughnut Economics and schools around the world, organizations that are making this effort from the bottom up or sideways or top down, and also coming up with new ways of doing it as well. We've also been working very hard on developing the next set of tools, which is focused on the embedded economy. It's going to be called, or it's called the Explore the Economy. At the moment, we're running a beta pilot to make sure that we can release this really well and that is quite ready for everyone to be able to use it around the world. So watch this space. Hopefully, we will be launching in January 2026. And finally, we have just completed 3 videos, very short, that introduce all the foundational learning tools in schools and education space. And with your support, please help us to disseminate them wider. We know that there is a lot of information, a lot of content in these tools. So these videos try to reach in a very simple and quick way, help you to support taking them up so that the fear of encountering so much can be lowered and you feel like you can use them. Of course, we're always here with very open ears. If you have any feedback, if you want to engage in a one-to-one manner with us, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we will be very happy to help you get going with the tools, contribute to any talks or workshops that you have, etc. So let us know how we can support you and we will be there. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to introduce very quickly our guests here, our panels. We have with us, oh my gosh, I'm trying to see where everyone is. We have Daisy with us, Daisy Hainsworth, who's joining us today, as well Isa, who is joining us from the Netherlands, Isa Moorman, Natalia van der Wee as well. I believe you're in the Netherlands, Maia in Austria, right? And Daniel in Colombia. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. And with this, I think we can start our session, our conversation. I'm loving all the hearts. Right, so maybe Natasha, if you can help us to spotlight us. I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. Also, why are we here? You know, why are you here? What has been your journey so far with us? So if we can start with Sorry, I've lost track of my notes of the spotlight, Natasha.
So you should be spotlit.
Okay, maybe it's my view of the thing. But if we can start with Maia, please.
Maya, unmute yourself.
Oh, I have. Now I have. And can you see my slides?
Yes.
Excellent. Fab. So, hi, this is me beaming in from Austria. It's an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to be with you lovely panelists and everybody else who's here. This is obviously an introduction, but just to begin with, I wanted to say it's not really about me. It's not really about who I am. It is partly about what I do, I hope. But mostly it's actually about all the people that I'm collaborating with, including all of you guys, because obviously no transformation, no system is going to be transformed just by ourselves. It's all about you colleagues who really fly the flag and dare to speak up. It's about the people I work with in the wider community here to enable projects who really believe in young people and who strip away all of those problems and difficulties and actually make things happen. Just really briefly though, I'm Maia Bristol. I am a teacher and I'm sustainability lead here at St Gilgen International School in Austria. I'm also studying for a master's in sustainability at the very wonderful Centre for Alternative Technology in Wales, which I can highly recommend if any of you want to take a step forward as well. I attended a talk last night by a lady called Helga Kromp-Kolb, who, if you haven't come across her, I do recommend you look her up. She's a lady who speaks the truth really, really gently. And while she talks, you suddenly realise that she's actually talking about Armageddon, and she's talking about it coming really soon. And you realise that within education, we're not talking about future generations and we're not talking about educating people for the future. We're talking about right now, differences that need to happen right now. So it's imminent. It's clear we need to be doing things, but how? Yes, we need a whole heap of knowledge and a whole heap of factual information so that we actually know what we're up against. But young people can't, well, none of us can make those solutions unless we see people doing them, unless we know what those solutions are, unless we feel empowered. And I think also unless we feel a part of our local communities so we can see we're making a difference. So that's really where Doughnut Economics comes in. Now I just want to actually change my slides, which I'm struggling to do. Sorry. I have lost my right to actually move on, I think. Maybe that will work, yes. This is the framework for the Green Comp, the framework for the systems, the capabilities and the competencies that young people need. This is from the European Union. And then TAP-TS has also sort of developed this a little bit further, sort of denoting what do young people need. And the green, slightly misaligned circles here are the ones that I feel that traditional education struggle to really put forward, particularly activism, those sort of things. And then the pink ones at the bottom are the ones where I feel it's really, really hard to sort of make those happen. You know, how do we get a 14-year-old lad to consider systems transformation when he doesn't even realize he's part of a system? So these are kind of struggles that we have. So lots of things that we need to be doing, collaborating, we need formal and non-formal, we need real world engagement. But I think those things at the bottom there, courage and social responsibility, are very much part of our responsibility as educators as well, to be able to encourage young people to pick up. So what did we do? We got in touch with Carolina, who, Carolina being Carolina, was incredibly positive and encouraging. And I said, I fancy doing a conference, but somehow with Doughnut Economics. And so we came up with this idea. Carolina beamed in from Portugal. She guided us through the whole process. We had 6 different schools collaborating. And that meant that while we were working with this sort of donut unraveled concept here, it meant we could look at local solutions through all 6 schools collaborating together. and then a more global sort of view, which also meant that our students ended up working with lots of other students across those different schools. The logo there on the right-hand side is, on the bottom there is Green Minds. This is a group of schools that we work together with. We developed it about 5 years ago, and it is expanding as we speak. I've just today had another meeting about how to extend it further. And it really means that we are able to work with other schools, work with other schools to expand the reach of the solutions that we're finding, which I find very exciting. And I do just want to include this picture here as well, because I don't want anybody to think that working with the Doughnut is dull. We had fun, and I hope you can see some people are laughing on these pictures. This was during the conference, and it was a really fun networking event. And so finding solutions through the Doughnut proved to be something really happy. I also put these pictures in here just to show you what else we're working on, really. But all of this is within the wider community. So it's working about real world engagement projects. It's putting big, scary, extinct animals up the local mountain. It's planting trees with lots of other schools for graduates, even when it's snowing. Really, therefore, what is the point? What is my point? My point is that Doughnut Economics and the tools that we're now working on, these new tools that Carolina has mentioned already, are a vital link between traditional education and the new conversations that we need to have. We've got some fantastic people out there at the moment working on those new ideas. Regenerative economics, I believe we're going to hear from tomorrow. I'm excited about that. Everything the FEE is doing, the new IB course, systems transformation, is how exciting is all of this. And those Doughnut economic tools, I think, are what we need to start those conversations in the classroom. And so I'm just really looking forward to the conversations that we're going to have today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maia. That's super exciting, and to see all those experiences alive with so many images of young people. If I could invite now Daisy to share with us her journey so far.
That's great, thank you. So, hi everyone, I'm Daisy Hainsworth. I'm a final year economics undergraduate student at Loughborough University in the UK, and I'm going to be talking a bit about my experience working with Deal last academic year to co-organise an event for our students. So a bit of context of why I organised the event. So last year I was what we call the economics department school representative. This means that I was in charge of improving academic representation within our department, collecting lots of feedback from our students, working with academics and also our student experience team. So this meant I was constantly listening into, engaging what sort of things that students wanted to hear from outside of their core lectures. So I did lots of surveys, and one thing that came back was that students wanted to hear more about environmental economics. I had read the Doughnut Economics book at sixth form, so I thought Deal was the perfect organisation to collaborate with. So I went to our student experience team, suggested it, and we reached out to Deal, and that was the beginning of our journey. The event was aimed at both undergraduate and postgraduate students within the business school across all disciplines. So that can be economics, marketing, management and finance. So we had a real range of students, which was really nice to hear from during the event. So a little bit about the logistics of our events. So Carolina joined our students virtually, but all of our students were in person in one lecture hall, which really gave them the opportunity to work together as a team and use their communication skills, which are vital transferable skills for the rest of their degrees and also employment. We used the Doughnut Design for Business tool, which Carolina suggested, and I also created a summary document, which was really helpful to be able to get the key points in and potentially hone in on aspects that they weren't 100% sure on from the content they'd already got from their degrees. During the session, Carolina gave a brief introduction to the concepts of Deal and Doughnut Economics, why it's important and what it is. And then we also did an interactive activity where students could work together in teams to use the 5 key elements of Doughnut Economics analysing an organisation of their choice, or Loughborough University itself. This gave students the opportunity to really have in-depth discussions about those organisations, what they're doing well and what they can improve, and really understand what that Doughnut Economics model looks like and how it links to what their key skills are in their studies at the moment. My key takeaways from organising the event were that including a mix of information delivery and also interactive activities was crucial in keeping students engaged for the time period. This was especially crucial because we had a range of students in terms of age range. We had students coming in from 18, just getting used to the lecture style of learning, right up to MBA students who are very used to that independent learning style. So that worked really well, and also we had a really lively atmosphere within the session. And also the additional benefits are super helpful when organising an event around busy student schedules. So we gave out certificates to recognise their participation in the event, which as business school students, they loved sharing on LinkedIn. And we also gave out donuts to really add to the fun of the afternoon. So my time as economics school representative has come to an end now as we enter a new academic year. But I'm really hopeful that Loughborough Business School will be able to continue the collaboration with Deal with future masterclasses and events. And the event was really well supported by economics lecturers within the department. So I'm really hopeful that that collaboration can continue. If anybody has any questions about the event, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daisy. This is a great example of a bottom-up approach, really led by you and all the students who requested, we need to learn about this. We need to learn about economics in a very different way. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank
If
you.
I could invite now Daniel to share with us his journey so far.
Great. And hello, everybody. Very nice to meet you. So I'll share my screen right now. And I assume you're seeing it now, right? So perfect. Yes, I am Daniel Gutiérrez. I am a guy who is 30 years old, and I am the director of an NGO which has worked very closely in general with Doughnut Economics for some years now. So this is like a little bit of the activities that we have been doing in mostly in Colombia, sometimes over Latin America, and especially in Bogota. I'm from Bogota. So we're doing environmental education fairs. We're trying to do the beautification of public spaces. The last biodiversity COP was in Colombia, in Cali. So there we had the opportunity to do a big conference for adolescents where we also showcased to multiple schools with the help of Caro, the Hello Doughnut tool, the one for the youngsters that Caro was just recently talking about. We do environmental experiences and also audiovisual content on environmentalism. So if you're looking to learn how to speak Spanish, I have the best podcast for you. So this is like a little bit about us. But maybe for me, the most important thing that I wanted to show you are like, what are the specific challenges that we're seeing? I think probably I'm the only Global South representative here in this call. So maybe it's important for me to show you what have I perceived as the difficulties in implementing in learning spaces the Doughnut Economics frameworks, and in general, like environmental frameworks. So in Colombia, firstly, the progress. I think it could be important to say we have a new educational policy which is very aimed at promoting critical thinking. So yeah, understanding that environmental issues are also political, that they're like very, very complex to resolve, introducing complexity items, systems thinking. This is something that we are already thinking in the policy level. I think this is very good. We also have these, we call them PRAEs, in which supposedly every school should have their environmental program, and it not always happens, and we don't have any kind of traceability about how to do it. But supposedly we should be doing it, the public and private schools. Also, like every day more, we have environmental education programs in university, master's degrees, in undergrads that are being born in the different universities. And most importantly, and I think especially when we're thinking about something like Doughnut Economics, like something that we're seeing all over Colombia is now a lot of expansion in community-led projects. So community-led projects in which we can implement like the community garden, like that's happening all over the place, and networks has been created in which we start just by thinking on how to create a compost or a community garden, but then that's the journey in which we create communities where we can also teach this more heterodox kind of economic thinking that we can see in Doughnut Economics. So yeah, we also have like the inclusion of climate change in curricula. This has been seen as a priority topic right now from the Ministry of Education. But like mostly which are the challenges, like Colombia and a lot of countries in Latin America, but especially Colombia, we have a very big inequality and a widening inequality between the cities and the places that are more peripheral. Also, the teachers are not really trained on environmental topics in general, so that's a very big difficulty. And even though we have laws that should be implemented to integrate all the environmental issues in the curricula, that's not actually happening. It normally happens just in silos. So this is also something that we're experiencing right now in Colombia. We're lacking infrastructure, and I mean, I know that it sounds a little bit contradictory to what I had just said about these community-led projects being every time bigger, but in general, like general Colombian population is very much unaware of the issues and challenges that we're living right now within the poly crisis. So yeah, that's a little bit of what we're looking at right now. And also like environmental issues, there is still a very strong lack of awareness of how local means global. So as for example, and when we think of climate change, like the multi-layered complexity of these issues is not still very well interpreted by those who are interested in environmental issues. It's more like the local ecologies, what we're aiming at right now, mostly. But yeah, that was a little bit of a summary of what we're seeing right now in Colombia, and I expect this conversation to be very fruitful to now dive in a little bit more into what we're working with in Doughnut Economics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. You bring a very sharp reality to these conversations, and where the challenges that arise for Doughnut Economics, and any narrative that is trying to shift the conversation towards more generative futures. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to invite now Isa to share with us a little bit about her journey so far.
Perfect. Let me also share my screen. There we go. I believe you can all see this now. Hi, I'm Isa, and I am a final master student at the Industrial Design Department of the Technical University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And I did a project in which I turned the Doughnut Economics model into a physical table to use as a reflection tool. And it was made for design students that are nearing the end of their studies, so students around 23 to 25 years old, to reflect on their career ambitions and to discover what the bigger consequences of those could be for the world. And the table invites to stand around to stand around the donut and physically discover its elements. So every element can be opened and reveals a dilemma. that sparks a discussion between the people around the table. It opens up a conversation about norms and values, priorities, fears, what is good and what is bad, and what do I want to contribute to this world once I graduate. So I learned mostly what is in the way for these students to make career choices that fit within the donut. And these opened up possibilities for education and sustainable companies to invest in creating a better understanding of impactful jobs and lives for these students. But it also showed the power of self-reflection and how much change you can bring in attitudes by asking the right questions. And I think that's the core power to what Deal does. So I'm very honored and excited to be here today and to talk about everyone's donut experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Isa. You've done a lot of in-depth critical reflection with young people in your project, and I'm hoping that during the conversation and the questions and answers, we can learn more about that journey. Again, another great example of bottom-up approaches, you know, in how we demand our systems of education to change and bring in these new narratives like Doughnut Economics. Thank you for all your work so far, Isa. And if I could invite now Natalia to share her journey, which has been going for a few years now. Thank you for being here.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Carolina. I will share also my small presentation. Okay. I hope you are able to see my screen right now. This beautiful group of people holding the SDGs symbols in their hands. And this is what we do at Masterpiece for, next year, 15 years already. Working with the SDGs, some of them working with people all around the world, which we call our clubs. And I will tell you just a little bit about organization. So we are a network of organizations with a core team in the lead. Core team is, a little bit all over the world with the headquarters in Utrecht, Netherlands. But we have a maybe similar organization as Deal has. So having the core team and people thinking alike, organizations thinking alike all around the world. So Masterpiece has 45 countries in our where our clubs are active, so civil society organizations that we call clubs, and they are the leaders themselves of their agendas locally. And we in a core team and all together with Masterpiece clubs, we lead this movement where we share our knowledge from country to country. We're active from Asia to Colombia and Latin America, Africa, Europe. And this is where we share our values. We share our knowledge, our innovative practices, best practices that we take from different regions, different clubs, and scale to many more countries. And today I wanted to tell you a little bit about our donut-related journey, because that one wasn't as long as the Masterpiece story. But about 2020, we first came across, I believe, the Doughnut Economics, and it was so inspiring and interesting that we applied to run an international project, bringing Doughnut Economics into schools, education, and non-formal education. That was in 2021. The project started, and the project was called, funny enough, Act as a Doughnut. And this was when a year after I joined Masterpiece, and now I'm a director of global programs. So all this, what you see on the screen, this is what I'm working with, topics and countries that participate. And today, I'm pretty sure some of the Masterpiece clubs and young people that we're working with are here in this panel, and I hope we will hear from them today later. So here you can see how we developed from the first project with Act as a Donut, where we created, back then there was no such a department and deal as school as education, and we had to develop our own program about how to bring Doughnut Economics into schools. And school education and non-formal education. And from there, we started the next year with more projects, with one more, then different aspects of Doughnut Economics and how to build capacity of youth trainers to be able to teach this to young people in a third project. And then people who participated in the projects were inspired and were interested in bringing these Doughnut Economics ideas into their locations. And this is how we, at the moment, have 5 running projects on Doughnut Economics. And what is the benefit of having a long-term project, that we can develop a proper quality programs for non-formal and formal education, and then train teachers and youth workers to work with these programs with students, with the participants of their workshops in their countries, and then actually being able to deliver some actions with those young participants. And now I'd like to give you just a quick look into some of these projects, just some highlights. So here you can see the No Label project, and this is one of the current ones that is focusing, it presents basics of Doughnut Economics to the young people, and it is led by them to develop ecological designs of clothes, and we were participating in a no waste fashion show in Poland this year. It brings more partners into the project, and we partner with the local governments, with local businesses, with social entrepreneurs in the countries. This is one of the highlights. And here, as I said, basics of Doughnut Economics and taken into fashion as one of the most polluting industries in the world. So we kind of focus on fashion here. In another project, which is called Footprint, we focus on already a different industry, and anything related to food, and many pieces of donut will contribute to the footprint of the countries, of the communities. And important, this is a running project, and it's coming into a high scale, a high stage right now. We developed in this project also a food eco-labeling system that helps educate young people about sustainability in food industry. So this is educational tool that they will use shortly in their activities. And 2 more projects that I want to just quickly tell you about, that were inspired by the participants who started this project. They were inspired by the project they participated in with us, and decided to bring Doughnut Economics and the ideas of it into their region. So this one, beautiful project, Do Youth, is for countries in Balkan region to bring this knowledge into this very diverse area, with different crises, with different local needs, and how Doughnut can perfectly fit that context and give ideas to develop youth to come up and own projects. And another project that is like a twin project to Do Youth project, it's How We Grow. And this is a similar ideas of Doughnut Economics, but brought into completely different context of MENA region, Middle East and Mediterranean countries. And here are different set of problems, different communities, different needs. Halan in Arabic means right now. So this shows the urgency of the needs and urgency to act in this locality, in these communities. And this is what these people who you probably will hear from today, these people bring Doughnut into their locations. And what I love about Doughnut, that you can always make it yours, make it local, and at the same time look through the global lens. And here I will stop sharing. Thank you very much. Talk to you more during the panel session.
That was wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for the amazing guests that we have today. This session and the work that we do in schools and education wouldn't be possible without people who are willing to share their stories and their journey so far. Really grateful. I want to move on now then to the conversation with all of us panel, and perhaps reflecting about the things that I've heard here, but also in many of our peer-to-peer conversations, is that we often hear that from all the actors in this space, so from young people to teachers to managers to curriculum designers, lifelong learners, that it really feels sometimes impossible to get started with Doughnut Economics, either because of the socio-political context that surround us, or the affordability that you may have in different systems of education, or the lack of affordability for safety reasons, because of demands of assessment and very tight curriculums, or simply because the teachers are overwhelmed with the amount of things to do. But what we often find when we start talking about these things in the conversation is that actually getting started is not that hard. And I think what we've heard from many of our panelists here is that you can very easily start threading intentions and something will happen. There are also challenges that begin to arise from starting and then sustaining that. And I would like to start with this, and maybe calling Daisy to start with this conversation about how do we get it started? What challenges may arise? How do you sustain that, etc.?
Thank you. Absolutely. So I would say it is just about getting started. And from a university perspective, lots of universities and departments have student leadership roles. And if you are interested in sort of starting bottom up projects, things like societies, committees, and also any form of representation are great ways to go about bringing in events. And also, I would say, just speaking to the staff members, generally they, especially in my personal case, they were very open to discussing new ideas. And especially at Loughborough Business School, our motto is progress with purpose, so fit in perfectly with that. So I think more and more educational institutions are wanting to engage in the sustainability narrative. And I just think it's, once you get that conversation going with the staff, it's much easier. So I think it is just about getting started. And if you have a passion for it, why not go for it?
Thank you, Daisy. And if I could invite Maia, who has a very different also entry point. You could say that it's also bottom up, but you're a teacher. But at the same time, you had to play with all the conversations, the political and system conversations in the school, right? So how did you get started?
Correct. It's slightly different to Daisy, of course, because I can start right from relatively early. So with the tools that you provide, obviously we can take them in at any entry level, really. And so I have the luxury, I suppose I would call it, of being able to start conversations with students before they have opened up those neoliberal textbooks, which bring to it all those concepts that in a way we want to kind of then pull back on. So I'm able to kind of go and start a conversation about whatever it might happen to be, the universal basic income, whatever we might pick that day, and then see what comes back. And I think that's kind of the joy. And Daisy, you probably found this too, that you kind of throw something into the room and you see what kind of response you get. And the joy of your tools, the deal tools, of course, is that they're completely flexible. you try one thing, and if it doesn't particularly resonate with your students, you try another one. And so we're looking at working with the tools, but then also coming in, obviously, with this conference that we've been working on with Carolina. It became very clear quite quickly in a conversation with Carolina that we would have plenty of support, which was really important. But also that we can take it from different languages, different social contexts. You know, it's a private school, and independent and state schools working together across language barriers, cultural barriers, and these tools all enable us to be able to do that. So yeah, I would just say, just get started.
Thank you, Maya. And that made me think of now from Isa's point of view, that also being a student in that transition as well of, engaging with the curriculum in design, which is probably very different to being in business, but also thinking about your research. So thinking as well about how can I make a difference with what I'm learning. I'll let you take it forward, Isa.
Yeah, so I think within my studies, I got a very different and creative approach towards this subject. It's very open-ended. We have to do a project, and you can kind of choose yourself on what you're going to do it on. So for me, there's not have been a lot of struggle into getting into the donut. But of course, when you can choose everything, it's hard to know where to start. So for me, it was talking to my professor about how we're in need of a different economy, but I wasn't really able to understand myself how that would work. So she recommended me the Doughnut Economics book. And while reading, I came across the sentence, what if all the world leaders would sit around a donut-shaped table and talk about the problems we're facing? And that's when I thought of making this idea come true. So not with world leaders sitting around it, but with other creators, my fellow design students, that are people that will physically shape the world of tomorrow. To have that debate on their design ambitions and how they fit in the boundaries of the donut. And I think starting up that conversation with this tool that I created created a ripple effect of people realizing very different things, but very important things. So yeah, that was my approach to it.
Thank you, Isa. And there's something really magical, I think, that happens when you engage with the hands, right? And then you bring it to a 3D version and you can have that conversation, but also the silent moments of reflection. So really interesting approach. I want to invite Danielle because you've mentioned a lot of the critical differences and the urgencies when the context is so different to what may be in other parts of the world.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Caro. So I think for me, so I had the opportunity with like my organization to translate the Hello Donut tool to Spanish. So like for me, I mean, like I know it very well right now, and something that for me trying it also in different school contexts. Uh, Something that I really love about the tool and in general about the Doughnut Economics framework is the fact that we should understand learning not only being as something like rational and like ideas and concepts, but also that goes, as you said, Caro, in the hands, feet, and heart. So how can we engage with this in a much more empathic way, and that it moves our feelings, right? And I think that is something in which the frameworks of Doughnut Economics have been very insightful for me and for the people that have had the opportunity to share the tools with, and also like as a recommendation for those who are starting to see how can they implement this in their own context. I was speaking with Caro the other day, and something that really inspired me to work within Doughnut Economics was that Kate Raworth was my teacher in Oxford. I did my master's there, so like just seeing her and like putting a face and like understanding like her own positionality, not only throughout her book and concepts, was very important for me. So like also it's people relating with people who actually can make shifts forward and make you think differently about certain stuff. And I think, yeah, that's something that has been important for me and something that I would like to recommend others as well.
Thank you, Daniel. There's so many things that I'm thinking I need to ask from this as well. I want to invite Natalia. I know you mentioned in your presentation a lot of your starting points and the journey that you've had, but is there anything else that you would like to add at this point?
Well, yeah, I think I mentioned the journey that Masterpiece went through, but in the beginning, I remember the first time reading the document of city plans and portrait of Amsterdam Doughnut Coalition, and it was so complicated. It's a huge Excel sheets with a lot of information. And that felt like overwhelming, that this is too complicated, even though I read Kate's book. But then it's like, oh, in practice, dialogue is not easy. It's just too many participants. And this is why we felt the need and the urge to break it down a little bit so that people can start, and young people can start looking at through the donut lens at early age. And this is why it's so important at school. And I'm very happy that now Deal has these tools like Hello Doughnut on for different ages, very, very clear information and very beautifully designed, because we kind of don't need to do that anymore. We can just use this and make it ours, like I said in my presentation. And this is the beauty of the donut. And that then you can look deeper when you have these fundamental materials that you can start with. Then you can focus and concentrate on certain areas that are more relevant in your community, in your location. And this is the value of the materials also that schools and education of Deal produces. So this is where to start, easier to.
Thank you, Natalia. It's great to have your perspective from someone who has been so early on with us in this journey, and to see how the tools have evolved and are also offering different ways of getting started, with ready to take pickup packages that you can use. And what I'm listening from everyone is that there's so many ways of getting started, sideways, top down, bottom up, with book readings. I've heard in some of our peer-to-peer groups where, a group of young people decide to start reading the book together, and then from that something else happens. And that's the beauty of beginning this journey with the donut, is that it's a compass, and that it lets you get started from the places that you are. And we can do our little bit. I want to move on now to the topic of transformations. That's a word that we hear very often now, right? Like, how do we transform? But what are we transforming to? What's that sense of direction? Is there direction? Do we need to know? And I guess that's one of the daunting things when we want to get started with something new, is that sometimes these systems are asking us to have a lot of control, right? And coherence. And especially in a school environments, the question often comes up as, what are we going to gain? How are we going to assess that? And etc. And so I would like to ask you, from your experience, what sort of transformations did you see in giving that trust to these tools and saying, it's definitely worth getting started? And how have you navigated that? And not only from the rational, but, when you got with your students and you started to do activities or learning these new concepts, etc., what happened in the classroom, and what has happened with you as teachers as well, and learners and parents, in all the dimensions that all of you bring in as young people too. Natalia, I'm going to ask you back to get us started with that.
Yes, thank you, Carolina. We indeed work with formal and formal education both. And this is what we hear from teachers. Maybe some of them are among the participants of today's session, and maybe later can share their view as well. But what I want to stress again, that for teachers, it's very important to have these materials ready that support them, because teacher's job is so intense. It's already a lot of reporting and preparation and checking and controlling for the students' report. So when they have the materials ready, they are really grateful and they are more open to start and to learn themselves and to start this conversation with the students, especially when it's translated in their language. So this is a great job what you can find. And what we also always do in our project, translate the materials that we produce. So it's a great support for teachers, make it easy and make them less resistant to start this. And this is what we hear from teachers from formal education. For non-formal education, it's easy because they're participants of the workshops. They're often volunteers, so they are interested by default. And teachers in formal settings, for them also, of course, hard to find a place. If you're not economic teacher, then like where to start, how to bring it in. And what I find amazing that our teachers manage to bring Doughnut view and Doughnut into their biology classes, English classes, because they do it in English, for example, talking about Doughnut. Into economics, of course, any social classes. So there are options, geography. So they can bring it in through different channels. And of course, the most beautiful way is to have this sustainability education. Sometimes it's at schools, and we have a great example of Albede School in the Netherlands. This is a professional education for in different cities in the Netherlands, but we work with Albede School in Rotterdam. And for them, we developed a model of the future, so-called, that is based on Doughnut Economics. And this is a complete program on sustainability for formal educational settings. And I want to mention that the school got the prize as the most sustainable school, not thanks to our module, but still we feel proud for this as well. So it is possible. It is possible to bring it into formal education as well.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you so much. And Maia, you're at the heart of it. You leave the pressure, the pressure cooker of being in a classroom with students and having a lot of pressures from all the sides. How have you been dealing with this in regards to this question?
Very good question, and it is quite different. I'm really heartened hearing Natalia, hearing what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right that it's not. It really isn't just in economics lessons. It really can be brought into everywhere, every different type of part of the curriculum, really, but also into like PSHE sessions and things then obviously outside the classroom as well, which is part of the joy. And so I think when we sort of sat back after the initial conference and thought, right, what are the immediate transformations that we can see? Obviously, they don't feel like transformations straight away. But you could see that suddenly you have 6 schools collaborating on a transport solution or on reducing meat consumption in schools. And then you suddenly realize that there is a multiplier somewhere. And if you don't start local, then that multiplier can never kick off. Now, I don't need to be the person who brings those solutions in Colombia. We've got Daniel over there. That's brilliant. We don't need sort of one individual to be able to do all of those things. But to know that there's an idea, we can communicate it, we can share it as Deal shares with everything, and then we can put all these ideas out into the ether, and they will begin to take off. Even just in our small little sort of our section of the world, the conference idea, we still want to stick with the donut. Yes, do we want to do one again? But we've been inspired a little bit by one of the talks. This was a couple of years ago now with Kate Raworth, and I had just looked it up, Samuel Frankhauser and Jason Hickel, so they were having a sort of a degrowth, green growth big debate. And so we're actually going to bring a new conference surrounded sort of donut ideas, but into a debate format to try to build on the critical thinking skills that young people have as well. So it's a really nice sort of way of seeing it. Or even, we were talking about systems transformation, but even our solutions keep transforming as well as we take them forwards.
Thank you, Maia. I'm aware of time, and there's again so much I want to ask, and I'm just seeing all the questions coming up. Isa, could you add from your experience briefly?
Of course, yeah. So for me, it has been a couple of things that kind of rolled out, snowballed when yeah I launched the project. So first of all, it included a lot of conversations. So it was exciting to hear students come to their own conclusions and saying things like, "Well, now that we're talking about this, maybe I should be more critical about dot dot dot." So that was really the goal of the table, that it could lead to some realization. And even though just at an individual level, those mentions were maybe the most exciting transformations that I saw happen. But additionally, I talked to a consultancy focused on circular economics about the results that I gained. And yeah, just to talk to them about if they recognize the points and doubts, and mostly what we could do to concretely change this, so that the students feel more enthused to go for an eco-social career. And it was really cool that we came up with concrete ideas that we worked out that they could implement. And lastly, for me, I also saw a question in the panel that if this table is already an online tool. So for me, there was a big compliment that yeah, Deal asked to create this into a tool. So I'm busy with that right now. Yeah. So that's what rolled out for me, and also definitely being here today with these inspiring people is going to deepen my learning experience further. So.
Thank you, Isa. And you bring up a really important point for this community and everyone who's here, the ones who couldn't make it and will watch us later, is how do I learn and get started when I may not feel that I have those answers, and being able to create stories to share with us in our platform. And it doesn't have to be super complex, but being able to share that is so important for everyone, especially when we think about the big wide world and the affordances and the experiences that everyone has access or not, to those things. I'm very moved again by just listening to all of you and how the ripples of when we get started are not easy to foresee, right? And I guess that's also the magical thing of what can happen when we trust that, when we feel and we follow that intention that we have in making a difference. And I hear a lot about critical thinking for younger students, but also to support teachers who may feel that they really want to get started, but they don't know from where. And all the individual, but the collective supports that you get in during this journey, to become more collaborative and proactive, and to start enacting ourselves when we get started, those new relationships and ways of being that are required. So it's not only about how we use the tools, but also how we begin transforming ourselves, right, in how we do things. I want to move now to what you shared and all the tools. So some of you have been using the foundational tools. Some of you have been using other tools that we offer at Deal. You've mentioned challenges and opportunities as well. Maybe in a couple of words, if I could invite the panel back to share, what are the main challenges or perhaps opportunities depending on your situation and your experiences, and then share with us what is that next step. Conscious of the time, I'm going to ask you to be brief, please. If I could start with Danielle, and apologies for having to rush. This is the clocks that we have in this world.
Okay, so I mean, I would say what's going up next. I think I am aiming for this Doughnut Economics to be able to be integrated even more in Bogota, in curriculums in Bogota and within networks. I think asking for help by different networks and just offering this freely is something that people are actually very interested in, schools are very interested in. So that's what I'm working at right now, very briefly.
Thank you, Danielle. Daisy.
Amazing, thanks. In terms of challenges that we face, I think the main thing is just trying to fit events into students' busy schedules, because you're trying to arrange a time that will suit undergraduates, postgraduates, lots of different students. So for us, it ended up being on a Wednesday afternoon, which is when students do sports. So there's always a trade-off with our timetables. In terms of opportunity, it was just being able to bring together so many people from different subject backgrounds and being able to hear from all of their different unique perspectives. And then looking at what's next, I'm hoping that the student experience staff team will help the new school representative to continue the collaboration with Deal, and hopefully we'll see some more masterclasses this academic year.
Super exciting. Thank you, Daisy. And Maia, if I could invite you next. I know we've mentioned some topics that have arisen from the conversations as well, representation. Maybe you can share that with us too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are challenges, obviously there are plenty, but I'd just like to also mention the new donut that has now just been released. I think this is a huge opportunity for us to really look at climate justice and be able to share some of this 40-40-20 idea. What it shows us is so clear and it's just so easy to understand. So that is definitely going to be one of the opportunities that I'm looking at, and we're going to be trialing the new beta tools. So I'm looking forward to that too, and really making sure that we are working to expand, certainly in this region, how Doughnut Economics can be feeding into all the collaborative work. So not just within one school, but across as far as we can to expand that representation, young to old, across languages, language barriers, and as far as we can take it.
Thank you, Maia. And Isa, from your young perspective, but also coming from the creative side of things, where some will say, design is often the engine of the unsustainable ways and behaviors that we have. How does this resonate with you in terms of going further and the challenges in those conversations that you have or that you may have in the future when you continue to support other young people in learning about these things and their career or their life choices in their future?
Yeah, well, good questions. I think, first of all, I have an advice from the designer lead perspective, but it also applies to, I think, everyone here, is that I think instead of only focusing on what is wrong, because the people in this virtual room, they already know what is wrong, it is the how can we do it differently that we need, and in which I think the Deals tools can really help. So I think that would be my advice to the people here. And for me, what's coming up, I finished the project with the table, but I'm working on a new project now. It's about a completely different subject, about the Dutch steel factory, Tata Steel, and activists who are against this factory, how they can make steps together into a green future that they both want. And the donut will certainly be a part of this journey again, in looking at opportunities of how it can be done instead of what cannot and should not be done. So
brilliant. Thank you so much, Isa. And I want to close with you then, Natalia, before we open up the floor for questions and answers.
Well, at Masterpiece, with all our clubs on board, we will continue working from now in two directions. Well, we already started a little bit. So one is to broaden and bring in Doughnut Economics ideas and Doughnut basics to more countries. I showed in my presentation that we have now directly involved 16 countries into the projects, but we have 45 countries to join, and maybe more to spread their ideas and to start basic donuts education in more countries and more localities, more communities. And on the other hand, to start youth-led projects that are focusing on a certain areas, like footprint project, like No Label that I mentioned, devoted to fashion industry. So bringing more focus into certain area where actually youth can come up with ideas, come up with local projects and implement them and run them and make change locally. So this will be a different and more deep understanding and implementation of the donut ideas.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for everyone's input, and especially the passion, the hard hands and feet that I can hear in each of your voices. I would like to open the floor now for questions and answers. I know that there's a few questions that have been coming up in the chat. Before we jump to those, I would like to open it for anyone here to voice them if you have new questions that haven't been typed already. I think they can unmute, right? The participants, Natasha?
Yes, participants can now unmute.
Thank you. Anyone who would like to get started? Okay. The deafening sound of silence. Right, so I'm gonna pick up some of the questions that were voiced earlier. The one, and it comes up quite often. Alejandra Rivera was asking about the attitude of the university, perhaps classical from the economic departments or schools in universities, and how was that attitude and reaction, the feedback that you got, Daisy, and perhaps Isa as well. Any recommendations or ideas of how to get around that?
I think the main thing was that the academics are really keen to hear from the students, especially at Loughborough. They really push to have a lot of representatives to make sure the student voices are heard. So when students are saying, for example, that they want to hear about environmental economics, they do want to listen. So that made my job easier when I was proposing event ideas, and to actually get the economic program leaders and the head of the economics group to come to the event was just amazing. So I don't think from my end I had any struggles in that aspect, but I think if you just go about it from a student feedback perspective, that's probably the best way, rather than it potentially just being your own idea. If everybody wants to hear it, then the staff will be more likely to agree to it.
Thank you, Isa. And sorry, Daisy. How about you, Isa? I'm also curious to hear how your, young friends, your peers, not only the teachers, but how did you navigate when doing this with people who perhaps didn't feel part of the conversation, or who didn't, perhaps, who found some resistance?
Yeah, so I think for most of the students that I talked to, it was very new, the donut, and also its perspective. I think also just the combination of the elements that are in the donut and then attaching that to career choices feels really unusual, because it's talking about how is food evenly distributed all over the world. But now you're thinking about, okay, maybe if I want to work at a company like a big supermarket chain, how does that relate to each other? So I think they reacted very kind of surprised, but all quite positive. And also, of course, there were reactions of people being very honest, saying, no, I think I will choose maybe a higher salary over something that is more related to the donut. But the beauty of it was that we were standing around the table with multiple people. So there was a discussion being held among those people saying, oh, really? Oh, and why is that? And we could go deeper into the values of why they felt that need to choose for that other option. So I think opening up the conversation is always best. And also for my teachers, at this design department, we're very reflective, also reflective on ourselves, so we can also be reflective on the teachers and their courses. So they've been pretty open to all the suggestions. Indeed, if it's formed in a feedback way instead of kind of kicking against the teacher's way.
Thank you, Isa. Any other reflections from the panel? Anyone that would like to add anything to this point?
I think I would say that in the Netherlands, for example, education about doughnut economics, so presenting it as one of the economical models, is quite normal already on university level. What I hear from when we have interns, or some of my colleagues are still studying different programs, master programs as well. So doughnut economics is there, at least in the Netherlands, that it's presented as one of the theories about economics. So that's how it is. And the way to there was a question like how maybe to move forward in your country, in your locality. It's maybe exactly to come from this end and say, hey, this is just one more view. So what is also there? So what are other, not necessarily doughnut economics as only one, different view at economics. But let's look at all the flowers and maybe from this perspective, bring this topic on the table.
Thank you, Natalia. There's a new question that has come up in the chat from Yoon. Could Doughnut Economics framework be also useful for students preparing startups? How could it be used and what tools are available? I could add to that, in that we have the business and enterprise theme where we have lots of different tools that help to rethink the purpose and the different layers of businesses and enterprises, right? Like from the how it's the networks, the finances, the purpose, how do we store that, etc. So I would welcome you to visit that page. And from the schools and education perspective, is one of the tools that we've also been using with young people in universities, but also schools who come from different disciplines and usually come up with new ideas of what they want to do. And so this tool comes useful at a different scale than what it would be used in a formal, already big business out there. But to bring critical reflection, again, similar to what Isa was mentioning with her project about how do we rethink what we want to do and why we want to do and how we want to contribute to the economy. I see, Laura, you're sharing a link there. Thank you so much. We are now towards the end of the session. If there are any other questions from the audience, please, from the participants, please share them now with us. I think there's been other questions that have already been answered.
Hi,
Yeah,
I've got a
hello.
question.
Hi, Dermot.
Yeah, I'm part of a faith group. Have there been any experiences of different faith groups collaborating together? I know there's a sort of growing sort of right-wing national thing that's knocking environmental type of situation. Maybe thinking that doughnut economics is a bit naive, you with the sort of national type feeling of right-wing groups. But are there any groups, faith groups, collaborating?
Rob, I think you had replied to that before. Would you be able to share with us a little bit?
Yes, of
Sorry to
course.
put you on the spot.
That's okay. That's okay. Yes, in the chat, Dermot, I shared two stories, both from Ireland, the island of Ireland, and the Dominican sisters who've been exploring what it means for their congregations and have been running some introductory workshops. So I can't say more than that at the moment. I do know that Pope Francis wrote about it in his book 5 years ago, and yeah, that often is the way that we don't hear about all of the cases of when doughnut economics is being brought into various places, spaces, conversations. But yeah, the Dominican sisters in Ireland wrote a really great story about it, so maybe check those out. I'll post the link again for you.
Thank you so much, Robin, for jumping in without any
No problem. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for your stories today.
Okay, we have a little bit of time left. Unless there are any questions, I would like to ask the panelists to bring up any other critical points that you wanted to share that perhaps have arisen from our conversations today? Any other? We've mentioned a few things informally in the peer-to-peer gathering. Some of you here. Would you like to share any last minute or final reflections that come from you?
I guess I have one, if I can jump in. I just think there's so many wonderful ideas. We've got such a variety here, just between the 5 panelists here, of ways that it can be used within one country across a far wider reach. And I think one of the concerns that I have, one of the difficulties that strikes me, is that there are just so many fabulous ideas happening, perhaps at board level meetings that the E4C are doing, the FEE. There are so many people who are working at a kind of a high level, and we need to make sure that we're bridging that gap, because as a teacher, there is, if you want to teach sustainability, you have a jungle of resources out there. There's no end to opportunities as to how to teach it, but how to make sure that you don't just get completely stuck because of that jungle out there. How do we make sure that disjunct between all these fabulous ideas at high level, board level, and don't just remain on the table at board level, and that they don't become entrenched up there, that they actually become a part of what teachers can really access. And I'd just love for this to be a part of the ongoing conversation, really, with Doughnut Economics, just to make sure that there is the everyday teachers feel that they have some way of just pulling in those ideas and being a part of that conversation.
Thank you, Maya. I remind and I welcome everyone in the next peer-to-peer gathering to discuss more about that. And I wonder if anyone in the group would like to add their own experiences about that, thinking about your different contexts.
I've certainly got an idea of the solution. I just wonder if there's some space for kind of a coordinators role. There's a lot of schools that have a lot of teachers who are sustainability coordinators. And if there's a way of leveraging a kind of a part-time role where people still step into the classroom, they still know what runs with students, what doesn't work, what's most likely to work in their particular context. And if they were able to be used as a sort of a bridging person, either on national context or within specific programs, maybe that could be a potential solution.
Yes. Natalia.
Yeah, I was thinking also in connection with the last question that was in the panel, that the previous question that was about how to act, how to connect the startups with can it be the source for startups, and now thinking about this moving forward with the different aspects of Doughnut. And I thought of our project, the first one that was called Act as a Doughnut, and the next one was Do You Actism, and then another one is Do You. So they're all, many of them are connected with action, and actually the message of acting is in a DNA of Masterpiece. It's walk the talk mentality, and I think that actually doing something. So not only looking at this as a theory, I love the Isa's model of the donut. So putting the hands, not only your head, but also hands in, this is the way. And startups, take the donut lens, city portrait, whatever tool, and see the opportunities, see the problems to be solved, and then act on those problems, not just talk about them, but do something about it. This is what we teach at workshops or lessons of donuts, bringing Doughnut Economics to our communities. So it's all about doing something.
Mute. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And thank you everyone again, for all the panelists for being here. Thank you for everyone who has joined the session. It's really exciting to see how the community is growing from all the spectrum, you know, from young learners, seasoned teachers, managers, everyone coming together. And I very much welcome this idea that, you know, we have to get started in this journey, even if it feels super difficult for the whole system of education to change, but we have to start. And it's lovely to see young people who are taking this in their hands and not waiting for the system to change, but them getting started from different points or angles, right? I'm gonna begin to wrap up now and share with you a final slide where I have tried to collate the main takeaways that from what I've been hearing. We've heard a lot, but if I were to try and summarize what we've been discussing about is getting started is not only about using the foundational learning tools that we offer in the schools and education theme. We also have, you know, the university materials that Kate has co-developed with Rethinking Economics that are already available to be used, but also there's a number, lots and lots and lots of tools in all our platform from different themes that, as we have heard today, can be brought into education spaces and with formal and informal and with young people. And also managers. You know, there's a lot of stories of schools that have contacted us that are trying to have these conversations with these materials across the different trusts that maybe that have control of the curriculums in schools, and they're using them to shift those mindsets in assemblies and etc. Lots of challenges and opportunities that have come up, and I guess what I'm hearing a lot is that even if it feels challenging and impossible, we need to get started. But also, like when we look around at the system that is failing young people, where teachers are also feeling disempowered because what they're teaching doesn't feel relevant anymore, I think that's enough of an answer to get started. We've also discussed how you can get started bottom up, top down, sideways, and also how from a community of practitioners we can get the conversation started, even if it's not like a specific action. The conversation is an action in itself, is what I'm trying to say. Even if if you can't run a full or one of our cards with our learning tools. From DL Science, again, I invite you to visit our page to watch our introduction videos that we've just released, to keep your eyes open for the embedded economy tools that we will be launching in January. Please join our peer-to-peer conversations to build the interest and the energy that we have in this community. We can only do it with more of you, with more voices coming to join us. So young and old, please join us. Yeah, and let's keep going. It's the only thing that we can do is to trust and get on the wave of this. And with this, I would like to finish and thank you so much for being with us again. And I look forward to get many messages from you to see how we can support you from Deal to get started. Everything that we do is for free, so please don't hesitate to reach out. It will be my pleasure to support you in getting started. Thank you. I think that's it. We finished with this. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful afternoon.